Welcome to the Kind Leader Podcast, where empathy meets action in the world of leadership. Your host, Gino Degregori, engages with innovators and seasoned professionals from diverse sectors, all demonstrating the power of leading with kindness. And now, your host, Gino Degregori.
Sometimes the hardest moment in life aren't setbacks. They're the beginning of finding your voice. Hi, I'm Gino Degregori, and welcome to the Kind Leader Podcast. Today's guest is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. She is the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain. She's the creator of Women in Supply Chain and founder of Blended Podcast and the Blended Pledge. She's also the author of I Buried Her in a French Press, focused on self-worth and finding your voice, which we'll be talking a little bit about that today. Super excited to have Sarah here with us. As you know, many leaders out there, they tie their worth to titles and external success. This conversation reframes leadership from that inside out. And love to learn more about Sarah's journey and her perspective on kind leadership. So welcome, Sarah. So if you could please share with the audience here your journey and your background.
Hi. Well, thank you. And I really appreciate you sharing your space with me today because, you know, it means a lot as a fellow podcaster. So Sarah Barnes-Humphrey, you just said that I was the founder of all these different things. Well, what does that mean? I've been in the industry for 25 years, so logistics and supply chain for 25 years. And I went from high school straight into the family business, worked all of the different jobs within that family business, started off as reception, went into operations, did operations for 8 years, sales for 8 years. During that time, I also needed to get over my fear of public speaking because I had this lifelong fear. And I bring up this story because it's kind of a fun one and I want to just throw it in there. It was at the time that if you wanted to get involved with Toastmasters, you'd have to pick up the phone and call them and ask to be invited or whatever that looked like. Every time I picked up the phone, my hands would sweat. So I was like, there's no Toastmasters for me. And I decided to get a talent agent instead. So I would go on auditions and I would get yelled out of audition rooms because I can't memorize anything to save my life.
My goodness.
But it all worked out because I didn't want to be an actress. I really just wanted to get out of my own way. And so wanted to throw that out there because that's kind of a fun story. But I went into sales and then I was director of sales and marketing and we needed to tell our brand story. This was back in 2016. I was listening to a lot of podcasts at the time, and I thought, well, if Lewis Howes can have a podcast, why can't Sarah Barnes-Humphrey?
That's right.
And I asked a gentleman from one of our departments to be my co-host, and tongue-in-cheek, we called it Two Babes Talk Supply Chain. I wanted to see how far we could push the industry, and we got 1,000 downloads overnight one night. And just under a year later, 10 days before my 37th birthday, we had to close the doors of the family business and I was out on my butt with nowhere to go, no team, no co-host,
Wow.
no director title, but I had companies paying to come on the show. And so I had an obligation. And so I learned graphic design, social media, website design, you name it, and rolled out the podcasts. And we've grown exponentially since then.
Amazing. Congratulations. And definitely a lot of threads to pull here as it relates to your life. But before we dive into that, I'd love to ask a question. What does being a kind leader mean?
I think it means creating safe space for conversations and helping your team feel seen and heard. So this is our mission across all of our brands. Let's Talk Supply Chain, Secret Society of Supply Chain, my personal brand, Blended. It's what we do. We create safe space for conversation for people to feel seen and heard. And I think that is where true kind leadership, giving people the space to speak their truth, to speak freely, to spark conversation. I think that to me is the definition.
I love that. And, are there particular examples or stories that you will be able to share?
Yes. So I haven't been a perfect leader. I've had to learn along the way. And I don't know if you feel this, but entrepreneurship shines a light in every corner of your being and your psyche. Mm-hmm. And it really exposes some of your weaknesses and some of the things that you need to work on. And it's definitely done that for me. And so I've worked through that. And I think if you're on the journey, I think if you're aware you can really turn that into examples for your team. Now, my team we're all remote. Most of them have never met each other.
Mm,
So for me, the examples of kind leadership is the investment that I make in them for them to build their business.
right.
So we create trainings in a variety of different ways that not only help them with what they're doing with us, but it's going to help them build their business and think differently about their business. So I think that kind of investment is an example of kind leadership. And then also making sure that we have some fun. So twice a year, we do a virtual party.
Nice.
Most of the time it's Pictionary, although last December we tried something different and we painted each other. We
Wow.
sent a
Okay.
paint kit to everybody and then it was random who picked.
Nice.
And poor Merlinda got me and I cannot paint to save my life. So, you know,
That'd be fun. You should, I don't know if you did post some of those pictures out there to see.
we
to
can
the world.
post theirs because they
Yeah.
are definitely the artists of the team, but mine is not going public. No.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that story. And you're right. I mean, going back to your definition, what I really love about it is what I captured is creating essentially that safe space. And I love what you said about to make sure that your people are seen and heard. That
Mhm.
is very important, right? It's not just about creating the space, but also allowing them that you understand, that I hear you, that I see you, right? And you have an opportunity to speak up, to share your thoughts and not fear anything or any repercussions, right? As it relates to how can we make this environment better? How can we make this team, this group, this company, right? And that's what it's all about. It's all the different perspectives that we have, right? Because as you said, like you live your life, you have so many experiences, so many, your journey is amazing, right? But there's been a lot of challenges, but that makes up who you are, right? But that's just one perspective. But as you create this safe environment, now you create these amazing perspectives that is going to make your company, your department, your team better.
Yeah, the Blended podcast is actually a really good example of that.
Mm,
So, on that podcast, I bring 5 different people from different walks of life together to talk about inclusion in the workplace. What that does is we create that safe space for conversation about really hard topics. I mean, for
mm,
one example, we talked about privilege. I mean, that is not something
yeah,
that is an easy topic to talk about, but every single one of the guests walked away from that episode with a completely changed perspective about privilege and how they move through the world. And that's a really great example of what can come out of creating that safe space, helping people feel seen and heard, giving them the opportunity to be able to share their perspective, like you said, without repercussions, but around curiosity.
right,
And if it's okay to disagree,
right,
but if we create the environments where it's done respectfully,
right,
then we can all walk away learning.
right. Absolutely. And that's key. I mean, I was talk about vulnerability and providing the safe space, right? You're not going to be, you're not going to get the vulnerability or the true, genuine self into that conversation if you as a leader are not providing that. But let me give you an example. Yesterday, I had a team call, and recently in the last week or so, I've been getting some feedback from my team, right? As an entrepreneur, I am a visionary, but I'm also, certain areas I'm intense, right? And my intensity comes from a good place. Sometimes the perception of that is not there, right? Sometimes the perception is like, oh no, here comes Gino, watch out. And from my mind, from my perspective, it's not we just got to get some stuff. But I've been getting some feedback that not everybody is able to receive that in a good way because of their upbringing, because of their beliefs, because of their
Right.
themselves, right? But then I share that to the group and I say, look, I got some great feedback and I talk about kind leadership and I talk about all these different things. But I got to tell you, I'm not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I pause for a second, I'm not perfect. I got some great feedback that it's really got me internal thinking about my style and where is the value that I bring to this organization. And it's not in the weeds. It's not in getting into that. It's at a different level where I'm being called to do more things. So that goes back to the kind of reflecting and kind of providing that vulnerability to create a safe space. And the question that I was going to ask to follow up with my example, how do you create that safe space from your perspective?
I think it really comes down to the person that's creating the space.
Mm,
Showing up and sharing authentically and vulnerably and making sure that you are not pretending to be somebody that you're not. because people can really spot that. But I want to go back to one of the things that you said, because I literally had this conversation this morning. And you know the saying, treat people how you would like to be treated?
Yeah.
That's actually not true.
Oh,
You want
interesting.
to treat people the way that they want to be treated, right? So it's a bit of a mindset shift as to what we've learned previously to sort of how it really should be today, is that, the reflection is in the other person and how they want to be treated and meeting them where they're at. And I think that takes effort. It takes courage, it takes bravery, it takes authenticity, it takes vulnerability. But that's really where the true magic happens.
Yeah.
And I go back to the Blended podcast for an example, because there's so many examples that come just from being able to create that space. And one of the first episodes that we did, I was talking to somebody from the LGBTQIA plus community, and I said, how do you want me to know how you identify?
Mm.
And he said, well, it depends what room we're in and who's around and like all these things. And I was like, okay, but how do you expect me to know when it's safe for you when I truly just want to know about you?
Right.
And you truly want me to ask and to get to know you and be curious and to understand you as a person. So how do I do that if there's all these parameters? And we had a discussion. Like, there was 5 people on the call. We had a discussion about it. And at the end, he goes, just ask me. It doesn't matter where I'm at and who's around. I really just want you to know.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And now you got me interested. I didn't get a chance to listen to that podcast, but it sounds like I love that we bring different perspective. But I can relate to that. Family members in that type of community, and I'm still confused at times on a lot of those things. And to your point, if you come from a good place and there's not a judgment question, it's not a some weird energy. It's more truly genuine. Like, I'm curious. How can I help, right? And how can I better, in order for me to help, how can I better understand your world? Because that's, I think, the word, the challenge, and not just that particular group, but just in any group, for whatever walks of life, is truly understanding the other side.
Yeah. But sometimes you don't necessarily also need to completely understand it. You just need to trust that they do.
Yeah.
And that this is what they want. And so asking the question about understanding, but also asking the question, what do you need from me?
Yeah, that's true.
What can I do to show support for you? A lot of times we get caught up in our thoughts on how we can show up and how we support, but they don't necessarily match what the other person needs or wants.
Right.
And so that's how we truly understand, is when we let go of, well, I need to understand this to be able to help you. Well, no, as long as they understand it and they can communicate it to you of how I can show up for them, it's a different way of thinking about it. Because a lot of people get stuck in the fact that they don't understand that world.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't help. But you actually have all the tools and resources, energy, and maybe money to show up in the way that they need you to show up, whether you understand it fully or not.
So let's pull a thread on that one. So if it's not so much about understanding their side, but it's more about being there and showing up so they feel heard and seen, basically, right? Okay. And there's multiple
creating the safe space for them to truly, authentically share and be themselves.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, because you're right. It's not about, because to your point, we'll never understand everything, right? And that's not the point. Like, we're not, it's about experiencing this world at the end of the day. And if we can provide that environment and make that connection, right? To your point on how you describe kind leadership, right? Create that safe space so you can make the connection so they can feel heard and seen. That's valuable. So that's amazing. How'd you, going back into, I know you wrote a book, right? I mentioned it earlier. And I think one of the there you go. I buried her in a French press. Definitely want to talk a little bit about that. I want to pull on the one of the chapters, like losing the title, finding your identity, because yes, we've been talking about understanding and creating the safe space, right, and all that stuff. But if you truly don't know who you are, right? Like go deep into, right, finding your identity or however. I would like to learn more about that, not only the chapter, but how'd you come up with that?
Yeah. Well, when I was first telling you my story, I talked about how I lost everything, 10 days before my 37th birthday. And at the time I had a director title, director of sales and marketing.
Mm.
And I could not find a job. I finally landed a receptionist job at an indoor tennis club, which was really just a means to an end. I was able to bring some money into the household, but at the same time, I was able to work on my business. So it worked out really well. However, I went from director to reception
Mm.
and I was mopping floors.
Wow.
So in those moments of mopping floors, there were days that I would hide it. I'd wait till everybody left and then I would do it so nobody was looking. And it was in those moments that I really had to decide, who am I and does this define me? And then another example is I was sitting next to somebody who was the CEO of a logistics company and they had just been bought. And we were talking about, he's like, I get asked all the time to do speaking engagements and all of my LinkedIn posts get so many reactions. And I'm like, yeah, because you're a CEO. Everybody wants to be seen by you.
Yeah.
And he's like, but I say no and this and that. And I was like, okay, well, what are you going to do after? Well, I'll do some consulting. Okay. But you're going to go from a CEO with access to all sorts of things and people who really want to know you to running your own business and consulting.
Yeah.
I said, those are two very, very different things. If you don't start saying yes now to speaking engagements and to really understanding your LinkedIn followers and what they want from you, you're going to have a hard time. It's going to take you at least 6, 12, maybe 18 months.
Yep.
To get even one of those opportunities to come back to you.
Wow.
And that is what we don't realize when we tie our self-worth and our life to a title and we lose a job.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's one thing to go from a director title to getting a new job as a VP and sort of climbing that ladder.
Oh, yeah.
But when it doesn't work out, then what? It's all in how you react and what that's going to look like for you.
Right.
Right? What gets you up in the morning? Is it the director title? Because if that goes away, what's your motivation?
Yep.
Right? And so the chapter is about identity. It's also about labels and how we give our power away to the identity, to the labels. And when it doesn't work out, it's truly devastating for a lot of people because we don't realize what's tied to that.
Mm. I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, because I can relate to that. I mean, I've been running an IT company. The first 10 years I had a partner and I didn't have the CEO title, right? I was just a partner. We were both kind of driving different things and moving it forward. He split, moved something else, and I continued moving the company. There were some challenges around that time too. And I had to humble myself because there was a project coming in and my background, I'm a developer, right? I actually had to go, running the company, 50, 60 people now. This project came up and I didn't want to lose it. I had to roll out my sleeve and become a developer again.
Mm.
And even the customers like, aren't you the CEO? Well, I gotta do what we need to do to move things forward. It was humbling at the same time, but at the same time, it was more like you have to do what you have to do. The world, the universe, or whatever is giving you this opportunity to continue moving forward. I could have said, you know what? No, I can't do that. I can't put myself down to the developer and let me find somebody else. I could have lost the opportunity, not proven, right? But I can completely relate what you're talking about. Maybe not the same level because you actually lost something. I still had something, right? So it's not even close to what you experienced, but I can somewhat understand. And that identity is tough because people associate like I am that. And if I'm no longer that, what's going to happen? I'm almost seeing it with my wife. Our kids are getting ready to go to college, right? We have one in college and one going to college. We have the little one we got 4 more years before he goes to college, but she's asking herself, what am I going to do after? My identity as a mom, right? For so many years. what am I going to be? Right. And again, not the same thing, but similar, right? From
No,
that.
there is no comparison, right? Like if we put comparison off the table, these things look different to different people.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I didn't mention was I actually had 2 jobs at the time. I had 2 part-time jobs and build my business at the same time. I actually didn't pay myself for the first 3 years.
Oh, wow.
I brought on team members and I just kept building the business. And the second job, I actually scored men's basketball games.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Worst thing I've ever done in my whole entire life because they think they're NBA players. And so every little mistake that I made, I was yelled at.
Mm.
You know, so talk about going from a director title to being yelled at for men's for fun basketball.
Right.
You know, it's really in how you show up and how you react to it, and you know how the power that you put on these things.
Right. What was going through your mind? I mean, because I can share my thing, but so it's about you today, right? And I want to make sure that you share this with the audience. Just like, I'm sure for you, it seems like forever ago, but you still, you navigated through that. It was an impact in your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
How were you getting up every morning? What were you thinking? Were you even thinking about like, why me? Or you were like, I just got to do what I need to do? How do you navigate through that challenge?
I don't think there's a right or wrong or perfect way to do it, to be honest. Like there were days where I was crying on the couch all afternoon. Like I worked for a little bit in the morning and then I would go and cry on the couch and be like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? Because at the time, realistically, I was moving the podcast forward, but I had no idea what this meant for me and my family.
Yeah.
And right before the pandemic, my husband lost his job as well. So during the pandemic, I lost both my part-time jobs. He lost his job.
Oh my goodness.
And I had this business. I also had a couple of different side hustles that were not making money and were costing me money that I had to shut down during the pandemic because at some point I had to make a decision.
Mm-hmm,
right? I was working all these things and I was trying to figure out which one was going to take off. And thankfully, the media one did. The other ones were very slow burn and didn't work out so well. But that was all happening. So there was real moments of obligation that got me up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I am the type of person that if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to show up and do it. Or I'm going to give you a lot of notice that I'm not coming, or I'm not coming if I'm very sick. I mean, those are really the different things. But that is what drove me, is my commitment to myself and to other people. And it still drives me today. I mean, I will be really, really sick and got to do a LinkedIn Live, and I will do everything that I can, and I will be on it, and I won't cancel it.
Right.
So that, I don't know if it's drive. I don't know what to call it. For me at the beginning, it was obligation though, right? It was like, I've made these commitments. I'm going to show up. I'm going to do these things, whether I'm good at graphic design or not, which I was absolutely not.
Yeah.
And then that has just sort of transpired through the building of the business and all that kind of stuff.
Got it. One thing, going back real quick, and as you were going through that challenge, and I call it the storm, right? You guys going through when you're in the middle of a storm,
Mm-hmm.
you're in the, live or die type of kind of mindset or environment. But also were you, and I'm just trying to learn a little bit more about you from that perspective and that perseverance. Was the world happening to you or for you? Was your mindset? Like, were you kind of, you know what I mean? I don't know if you ever heard that before.
I have heard it. I don't know if that went through my mind at all. I'll be perfectly honest.
Okay. And I'm just curious because it's that mental fortitude. I think that you have to, one thing is your personality and your drive, right?
Yeah.
But another thing is the mindset of, am I learning from this? Or am I, you said it earlier, the reaction to life, right? Like how you react is what really defines who you are to move things forward. And I think you were reacting in a way like, hey, I got commitments, I got ideas, things, and all that stuff, right? At any moment where you were like, why me? Why is this happening to me? Do you have that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have moments of that throughout your life. It's one of the reasons why I've been in therapy since like my early 20s. I think that therapy is very important throughout your life because things ebb and flows and all these different things happen. I think you can have moments like that. If you read the book, there are moments in the book because I share all of these life stories. There's a few that didn't make it, but But I share how you gain your voice and you lose your voice and you gain self-worth and you
Mm.
lose your self-worth. But it's like this journey of constantly feeling good and then maybe 40% and then not so good and then 100%.
Right.
And it's sort of like it changes every single day. And I think it's okay to have those days.
Mhm.
And then it's also okay to, pick yourself up and, get through the obligations and, do what you say that you're going to do.
Yeah.
But it's not easy. Like me talking about this might sound easy. It's not easy. It's an everyday education. Okay. Do I want to think about what I learned in that situation
Mhm.
today?
Right.
No, I do not. Maybe Thursday.
Yeah.
Do I want to journal about it today? Nope. Feels like homework. Okay, we're going to push that off to the weekend.
Nice.
But as long as you do that and you get
Right.
there, right? If
Yeah,
you
yeah.
keep pushing it off, then you might be in trouble.
No, I appreciate that, and the reason I'm asking is because as I was, and I still there's struggles and challenges and different things in life, right? I really shifted after COVID and pandemic. I was started meditating and doing a lot of more of the stuff, self reflecting, and even what just recently happened with my feedback, right? I could easily say no, I'm gonna do that. They're wrong. I'm right, right? And it's like, but coming back to who I am, right? Like, how can I learn from that feedback?
Yeah.
I need to listen to that feedback. If I ignore it, you know what I mean? It's going to continue to pop up or come up. And that's what I'm trying to get at is like, I followed a framework, getting into more meditation, getting into self reflection and learning who I want and who I wanted to become. That has helped, right? And the vision of creating this kind leadership movement has helped me. How can I build this up within my organization? How can I create this podcast to push it out there and meet amazing people like yourself who are doing it and maybe calling it different something else, right? But it's the same thing at the end of the day, right?
Mhm.
Helping each other out, right? And building that momentum. So it's exciting to see. And I just wanted to kind of share that and try to understand if there wasn't any additional things for our audience to kind of learn, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Have you listened to the Fifth Agreement? There's the 4 agreements and then there's the 5th agreement. I'm listening to the 5th agreement,
Okay.
and it's super interesting about perspective on how people see us versus how we see ourselves. And it
Mhm.
used this particular example of going into a movie theater. So
Mhm.
one theater is playing the movie from your perspective. The other theaters are playing it from your parents' perspective, your partner's perspective, your
Oh, wow.
employee's perspective. And it's interesting when you go from one to the next and how you see them reflecting on you as a secondary character in their story.
Yeah.
And it's super interesting. And I've only just started listening to it, so I don't know all the things, but it sort of made me think, okay, well, we each all have a story. And so the feedback is great, but what is actually ultimately the truth?
Mm. Yeah. What
Right?
is? Yeah.
What is the truth? And the truth is somewhere in between how you show up and how you think that you show up, the feedback that you get from your team. The truth, I think, is like sort of somewhere in the middle.
Mm. Yeah, I would agree completely. I mean, it's I haven't listened to that or heard about it, but I always talk about people perspective, right? When I have a problem, it's like I always, whether it's a sales conversation with a customer or a partner or even challenge. I was talking to another employee here. I notice that the people that are closed off and just are focusing in their world and their perspective have a harder time communicating and integrating in an organization, right? Compared to the people that are more open and aware of there's other things, other perspective, right? Or the curiosity, I think you said, right? Curious on what is the other thing. But you got me picturing this movie theater with myself. I mean, I would love to understand. I would love to see what other people see that are
Right?
connecting me see that. I think it's amazing. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Another example from my blended podcast, real quick,
Yeah.
is I get called out on the show all the time
All the
because like I'll use a word that I shouldn't use or anything like that. And the last time that happened, they called me out on it. We had a discussion about it. I asked questions about it to really try to better make it make sense in my mind, right?
Mhm.
And they were like, "You're going to edit this out, right?" I was like, "Absolutely not. This
Yeah.
is an educational moment. This is a learning experience for all of us." And even though I'm the host of the show, people need to know I don't know everything about
Right.
inclusion. obviously.
Right.
But this is how you have a conversation to understand other perspectives, understand how you want to navigate it based on your values and your perspective. And they talk to you about their perspective. And then there's somewhere in the middle of compromise.
Right. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. One thing that was popping out as you were talking about inclusion and inclusive leadership and amplifying the voices. What are some examples or ideas that you can provide to the audience on what are some of the things that they could be doing in their organization to kind of create that environment?
I think they really need to understand themselves. What is it that you like to do? What is it that you don't like to do? What are you good at? What are you not good at? What's the value that you bring to the table for the organization? And how do you show up in conversations? So if somebody gives you feedback, how do you show up? Do you get defensive? And it's okay. Like there is no wrong answer.
Mm-hmm.
What it does is it creates awareness of how you show up and, getting the feedback, how other people perceive you. Because if you don't understand that, how are you going to move forward? How are you going to establish relationships? How are you going to get promoted?
Yeah.
If you can't not only understand that yourself, but then communicate it externally. And once you can showcase that and you can live in your authentic truth at work,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you can't, and that's not any fault of your own, but maybe you're not aligned with the company that you're working with. And maybe that means you need to look somewhere else.
Gotcha.
But I think understanding and knowing that and changing the way that you show up and you interact and you communicate is almost like a domino effect.
Right.
Because it will shape and shift. You'll see people shape and shift.
Yeah.
In how they have conversations with other people and how they have conversations with you. And how they have conversations with other people is not your problem. But if you show up and sort of be that example and showcase who you are and what you want to be known for and the value, and you can communicate all of that effectively,
right,
you'll see some changes.
Beautiful. Well said. It really starts within, right? Understanding and getting that perspective as much as you can, and not just your single view of the situation.
And it doesn't mean you have to be perfect every day. Listen, if you show up and you've got some crap going on at home, communicate it.
Right.
You don't have to tell them the whole details and go into the whole story. I mean, you don't have to share everything.
Right.
But I think it really makes sense for especially leaders that want to be kind leaders to showcase that they're going through stuff too.
Absolutely.
And that it's okay to talk about it. Maybe not a whole therapy session, but like it's okay to say, I'm, having a rough time with this at home. I'm not going to let it, distract me, but I might be a little bit quiet for the next couple of days. Can you respect that?
That's beautiful. And that's the psychological or the safe space, right, that we're creating to be able to say that, right? Because there are organizations like, I don't care about your life, like this is business, and that's the wrong environment I want to be in, and the listeners don't want to be in, and that's why it's so important. But then the leaders, the people, can share that and be comfortable that they know they're not going to get their heads bit off, and will give them that opportunity or hold that space for them to navigate through what the challenges that are facing, right? So,
well, you don't want them to hold it in.
Right, absolutely.
If you hold it in, then you're going to create so much more tension and friction, and conversations aren't going to go well because they're just not in a good space. And that doesn't mean that they're good or bad because of it.
Right.
It just is what it is. And so how do we create less tension? How do we create less overwhelm? Most people are overwhelmed because they've got stuff going on and they need to show up 100% for work because they have this expectation on them. Maybe it's pressure that they put on themselves. Who knows?
Right.
But where is that pressure coming from? How can we alleviate that? How can we, let people know where we're at today so that they can better communicate and support us?
Beautiful. Beautiful. And would you say your book kind of helps navigate through that? All right. Like, will provide some level of guidance for people, for the readers?
Yeah. So with every story that I share in the book, I bring it back to how I felt in the moment and how I navigated through some of the feelings, how I was able to get the voice back after I've lost it, or the self-worth after I've lost it. So yeah, I mean, it's not a self-help book necessarily. It's more of a memoir. But I
Okay.
do explain how I get to different thoughts, feelings, and different
Okay.
things.
Why the name of the title is interesting.
So chapter 9 is the whole story on it.
Okay. Okay.
And most people think it's an analogy, and it absolutely is not. It is a story about how I buried my grandmother in a French press.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
And it's a story of resilience. You might be wondering, well, why? She was one of my closest people,
Yeah.
and I wanted to do an ode to her. But the story is really about resilience in the moment and trusting your intuition.
Beautiful. I love that. Well, definitely we'll put that in there and recommend for people to listen, and sure we can get a lot of good stories and nuggets to grab from. So
Would love that.
thank you for sharing. Anything else you want to share about the book and why people may want to listen to it?
Well, it made bestseller in 2 different categories on Amazon, and we've got 55-star reviews. So people are enjoying it. Don't take it from me, take it from them.
There you go.
And a lot of people have, said to me how much it's sort of resonated with them and helped them through some of the things that they're navigating through right now. And that's the whole point of the book. If I can help one person,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And that's the purpose of your podcast and this podcast too. Is like, if we can help one person that
Yeah.
we said something that really resonated, and now they're going to go to work, right? And I'm going to implement this. That
Yeah.
will change their trajectory in their life and make a huge impact. So I like that.
Yeah.
Comes from a good place. All right. So going into a flip the mic segment here, do you have a question for me?
I do.
All right.
What's one thing that your audience doesn't know about you and would surprise them? And the reason why I asked this question is because most people don't know. I have 2 things that I have shared previously, but I don't share all the time. One is that I want to play a dead person on TV.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So if anybody has any connections, I would love that. Okay. That's like a bucket list item for me.
Nice.
And then the other one is I eat Big Macs in every single country that I go to.
Okay, that's great.
To see what the difference is and all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
before you ask, the best one was South Korea in
Okay.
Seoul. They delivered it on a bike and there was no lettuce out of place and it was
Oh
fabulous.
my gosh. That's awesome.
So now I want to know from you,
Yeah.
what is yours?
Before I answer, I'm just curious. What was the worst Big Mac?
Oh, Barcelona.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. You had that one ready to go.
Yeah. Mhm.
Excellent. For me, I think I've shared in the podcast, and I don't know if you knew this, but I'm a pilot. I've been flying for 14 years in the
Cool.
personal, right? For fun and business as well. But one thing I may not have shared, and I played the saxophone growing up, middle school, high school, and then even in college too. My 2 kids are musicians. My oldest is a viola, plays in college, and my youngest plays the cello. So 2 out of 3 are musicians, and they love it, right? They want to continue moving forward. And I'm living kind of not vicariously through them, but it's like almost a little bit of like, oh man, I need to get back into it. And I've been called, like, maybe not the saxophone, but going back into it, but the creative side of me, my creativity mind is like, go back into playing the piano, for example, right? Like I really want to learn how to play the piano and expand on that, whether it's going to create my own music or just really play some amazing songs, right? Like that's what's really calling me.
Mhm.
I don't know why. So maybe by the time we talk again later in the future, maybe invite you back and I'll be like this piano player. I don't know, but yeah,
That's cool. Maybe we'll see you on the jazz circuit with the saxophone.
there you go.
Mhm.
You never know. You never know. Awesome. Well, thank you for asking that question. I think those are good things to people, especially the audience not knowing about me. So I appreciate it. Before we close it down, I just want to kind of call to action to the audience. This has been an amazing conversation, and if this resonates with you, talking to Sarah here as it relates to her book, please share it with others. Right? Don't forget about us and let us know how we can continue to improve. I'm doing this for our audience. I'm doing this to continue to communicate and share with folks that kind leadership is not in one industry. It's not one person type. It's anybody and everybody can do it. So thank you for that. So where can people find you?
All over the place. No, I'm just kidding.
Good.
Instagram at Sarah Barnes-Humphrey and Let's Talk Supply Chain. We've also got blended _pledge, blendedpledge.org, letstalksupplychain.com, and sarahbarneshumphrey.com. And then over on LinkedIn is where we are pretty active.
Okay.
Sarah Barnes-Humphrey, Let's Talk Supply Chain, and Blended Pledge.
Beautiful. So hopefully I can get an invite to the Blended podcast someday. I can share my perspective.
Absolutely. I just need to send you the topics.
There you go. I'm ready to go.
I was going to ask you anyways. I mean,
pull some of our audience in there because I really appreciate what you're doing. And as I was doing my research to talk to you, not just the book, but the podcast sounds very interesting. Now that you talked about it and bringing different perspective, that's what it's all about. That's what's going to help us navigate through a lot of these challenges, right? And help each other out and building that foundation. So Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no, it's been great. One of the other examples that I always share, I did an episode on ageism. And I had 5 people, but I had a Caucasian gentleman in his 60s, and I had a woman of color in her 40s. And the two of them didn't really necessarily see eye to eye, but we had a discussion. It was very respectful. And when I hit the stop record button, she turned to him and said, "Thank you so much for showing up today and sharing your perspective."
Wow.
Yeah. Because if you create the space
for
the dialogue, we can learn how to have dialogue again.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. I'm gonna start using that for sure. I mean, we do this every other week. We meet with the company as a whole virtually, and we just provide updates on where we are, introduce new people, new employees, or changes, right? And then at the end, I close it up with a message, right? Whatever it is, whether it's kind leadership or something, right? And I didn't do it yesterday because we ran out of time, but the previous time when I did it, I shared the message and I opened it up. And nice. I said, how is this resonating with you? Who would like to share that perspective or their perspective on how to hear? And that allowed that conversation to happen, right? And it was good to see people that I don't talk on a regular basis get their feedback and creating that, to your point, that environment where people can do feel safe to pipe up. So
yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. What's a final thought that you want to leave our audience here with?
Show up and be yourself.
Show up and be yourself.
Yeah. It's too exhausting to try to be somebody that you're not.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how can you show up more of yourself?
Absolutely. So thank you. Yeah, definitely that resonates with me and with others. So, but thank you very much for joining me here today, Sarah. It's been a wonderful conversation and got some really good topics here that we discussed. And hopefully I know people will take away a lot of good things from it. So
thanks so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And maybe we'll definitely talk again in your podcast, and then we'll see if we can bring you back in the future as well. So, and for our listeners, thank you very much for listening, and thank you for being part of the Kind Leader podcast here. And remember, be kind, bring value, rise together. Have an amazing day.